Mutuso Urano had passed away on the verge of becoming a librarian. Her final prayer was to be surrounded by books in her next life. Urano wakes up as Mine, a sick 5-year-old girl in the medieval capital city of Ehrenfest, and meets her mother, Effa, and her older sister, Tuli. Her mind is bombarded with memories, and she's soon able to understand and recognize them. However, she feels dismayed and concludes that a book would make her happy. She goes around the house searching for a book to read, but to her immense disappointment, there is none. Over the next 3 days, Mine struggles with the oddities of a new peasant lifestyle. One day, Effa heads out to the market with Mine on her back. However, Mine is unable to find books, even in the market. Frail little Mine is sickened by the market and decides to wait with a local merchant while her mother finishes shopping. Surprisingly, she finds a locked book inside the merchant's stall and asks to flip through it, but the merchant denies it. Mine realizes that books are rare and a luxury only afforded by nobility in this world. Adamant, she settles to make the books herself if she has to. Mine ponders where she can get paper to start making books. She also struggles with settling into her new limited life. Using her intellect to adjust, Mine makes shampoo with myrtle fruit oil, leaving hers, Tully, and Afar's hair glossy and pleasant smelling. Later in the day, Mine and Tuli decide to take their father, Gunther's belongings, which he had forgotten. However, Mine is too weak to walk by herself. Luckily, they're approached by 3 little boys, Lutz, Faye, and Ralph. They're neighbors, and are offered help. As Mine rides Ralph's back, she notices him fancying Tuli while herself getting flustered by Lutz. They compliment the girl's pleasant-smelling hair. Upon reaching the southern gates, where Gunther works, the girls are embraced by him, affectionately. Gunther introduces them to Otto, a fellow soldier who, to Mine's surprise, knows how to read and write. He's writing on parchment he made out of animal skin. Happy, she asks Gunther to get her parchment, but is refused. He reasons that it's too expensive. However, Otto is encouraging and promises Mine he will get her a writing slate. As winter approaches, the pork stocking festival begins, but Mine, unable to deal with the festive activities, faints and is taken to the city gate to rest. She wakes up to find Otto with a writing slate. Mine spends her time giddily writing her new name in the new language and the names of the people she's met in her new life, grateful that she can write. It is a harsh winter in Ehrenfest, and Mine tries to separate fibers from the reeds to make faux papyrus for her winter handiwork. However, even with Tuli's help, she fails and gives up. Later, Tuli and Gunther bring porris, a sweet winter fruit. Mine learns that the porre pulp is discarded as bird feed but discovers it is indeed edible. To everyone's amazement, when hungry, Lutz and Ralph come by to exchange food due to a shortage. Mine, with the help of Lutz, makes Peru pancakes. They are loved by everyone unanimously. In the evening, Gunther arrives home to find Mine out of her pencils. She asks Gunther to take her to Otto, but Gunther is jealous of her affection for him. However, the next day, he takes her to Otto in a cloudy mood, warning him to take care of her. As Mine practices writing, she picks out mistakes in Otto's accounting. Impressed, Otto asks for Mine's help, and she agrees to help in exchange for more lessons and an unlimited supply of pencils. To Otto's surprise, she swiftly gets the work done. At home, Mine asks her father to help her build a crochet tool so she can make a flower ornament to go with Tully's baptism outfit. Delighted that she'd ask him for help, he carves one out, and Mine makes the ornament for Tuli. She thanks her for her help. Gunther embraces his daughters, yapping affectionately, and praises them for being good sisters. As spring arrives, Mine continues to impress with her cooking skills and intelligent inventions. She expresses her wish to go to the forest so she can make clay slates to help her make books. However, Gunther tells her to first build her strength. He suggests Mine become Otto's assistant and walk to the city gate, thus little by little building her strength. Mine, delighted, does as she's told. However, this doesn't stop Gunther from being cutely jealous of Otto. Unfortunately, as soon as she can walk, she falls sick and can't make it to the forest until summer. When she's finally permitted to go with the other children, she promises Gunther to rest and not do hard labor. However, Lutz catches her breaking it by digging for clay and scolds her. Grateful for the Peru pancakes, Lutz decides to help Mine dig. With his help, she's finally able to make clay tablets. Mine explains the concept of reading and books to Lutz. Suddenly, Faye and a boy break through and stomp on the clay, making Mine both furious and hurt. The children help her build a second set, but the rain destroys it in the next 3 days. They then work hard on the third set and are successful. Mine wishes to write down all her mother's stories and keep them secure forever on these slates. She takes them to the oven in her home to bake, but these slates explode, putting another one of Mine's ideas to the grave. It is summer in Ehrenfest now, and the day of Tully's baptism has arrived. As Tully goes to her baptism, Gunther and Mine head to the city gate. There, Mine handles an official matter since Otto is busy in the meeting. Poor Gunther can't keep his jealousy and hurries Mine out. How cute. Later, Tuli receives a seamstress kit at the dinner to start as an apprentice seamstress, and Mine gets a knife to help with the woodwork. Conveniently for Mine, she can use the knife to make wooden tablets for her book. The next day in the forest, Lutz helps Mine with carving tablets and requests a meeting with Otto. Otto has experience with trading, and Lutz dreams of being one. Hence, Mine talks to Otto and sets up an appointment. She also wonders what she can do to write on the tablets and asks Otto for ink, but is denied. Instead, Mine and Lutz mix soot with a clay to make crayons. When Mine returns home with crayons, she discovers Effa has burned her tablets. Overcome with despair, a strange fever overtakes her, and she collapses. She recovers with Lutz's encouragement but grows curious about her illness. Due to her fever, they missed the meeting, but Otto gladly rescheduled. Mine also opens up about her frustration at her failures, and he recommends she hire someone else or find an investor. Otto lightly teases her that he's curious to meet the person she's so eager to introduce. Mine washes Lutz's hair to make him presentable for the meeting. At the meeting, Otto brings his brother-in-law, a merchant, Benno. Benno immediately notices Mine's unique inventions, shampoo and hair sticks, and asks for details, but Mine intelligently keeps it confidential. Otto then recommends to Lutz that it's foolish to be a merchant since it would mean giving up citizenship. However, Benno asks for their goal. Lutz hesitates, but with Mine's reassurance, says that it's to bring Mine's ideas to reality, and he will sell them as merchandise. They tell them their idea to sell paper made of plants instead of animal skin and decide to develop a prototype next year, the year of their baptism. To start on the paper, Mine needs nails for the equipment. She asks Otto, who agrees in exchange for the shampoo for his wife, Karina. He takes Mine to his home on the wealthy northern side, and Mine washes Karina's hair. Otto is smitten and quickly sends Mine, with nails, on her way. Later in the woods, Lutz tells Mine about his family's distrust of traders as craftsmen and how it's hard for him to be a merchant. On their way back, Otto gives them an invitation from Benno. It is revealed that Benno is interested in Mine's odd inventions and plans to take them in as apprentices. Mine had also asked Otto if he knew of any illness similar to hers. Benno doubted that it might be the devouring, which means she might die soon. The children meet Benno at Gilberta Company. He complains that Mine should have reached him for the nails in exchange for shampoo instead of Otto, since he will be employing them. Mine apologizes by bowing, which perplexes Benno since it's unusual in medieval culture. He offers tools for developing paper, and Mine expertly negotiates a sale and ownership agreement with him. Benno then calls his assistant Mark, and they sign a magic contract to seal the deal. On their way home, Lutz seems doubtful, seeing Mine talk maturely, and questions who she is. Mine is now worried that if Lutz and everyone else found out, they'd detest her. Mine tries to handle work talk without Lutz to avoid his suspicion, but collapses with a fever, at which Benno strictly orders Mine to go home and not to come to the store without Lutz. Later in private, Otto and Benno discuss Mine's illness. Benno explains that the devouring occurs in children, born with mana, magical energy, and cannot be controlled without a magic tool. He worries that it will kill her. Later, Lutz tells Mine that he felt belittled by her ability to talk business and does not hate her, which eases her worry. However, he stops calling her Mine. Benno also orders Lutz to look after Mine and gives them a workspace in the south to start their work. Lutz and Mine have started working on the paper. They go to carpenters, lumberers, etc. to get their equipment made. One day in the forest, while trying different woods for paper, Mine comes across a trombe, a fast-growing vegetation-killing plant. Lutz and the other boys quickly tackle the plant. After they've managed to chop it down, Mine examines the branches and decides to use them as the paper base, and it works. However, Lutz is now quiet around Mine. Lutz notices Mine's unusual knowledge of papermaking and odd inventions, something a girl of her age or this world wouldn't know. Once they have finished the first batch of papers, Lutz confronts Mine again, this time seriously over who she is. Mine finally admits to him that she isn't the real Mine, which enrages Lutz and demands the original Mine be returned. Mine explains that she can give him the old Mine back, but only a corpse would remain. She describes how she doesn't mind giving the old Mine back, since she would have been long gone if it weren't for Lutz's encouragement and support. In the end, Lutz realizes that most of his memories and friendship are with this Mine, not the original one, and he accepts her, strengthening their bond. The children finally present the paper to Benno, who's surprised to learn that it's made of trombe. He passes them, satisfied. After receiving her profits from paper, Mine shows Benno her flower ornament as another tradable merchandise. Benno is taken aback to learn that this is also one of Mine's inventions, and decides to enlist the kids with the guildmaster as temporary merchants. The guildmaster, Gustav, refuses to give away the guild cards to unbaptized children. However, Benno shows him the flower ornament he has been trying to scout for her granddaughter Frida's baptism. Upon seeing this, he agrees and tries to hire Mine, but is firmly refused by Benno. Afterward, the children bring their profits home. Mine's family is delighted. However, Lutz's family is still very much against trading. Soon they meet Frida at Gustav's Ottomar Academy. They show her the prototype and examine her baptism dress to design the ornament accordingly. Mine suggests that Frida would need 2 pieces. Lutz smartly helps strike a deal with the second ornament at a discount. Like her grandfather, Frida also tries to recruit Mine but is declined. A month later, Mine and Litz return to deliver their ornaments. As they walk, Mine tells Frida of her illness. To her surprise, Frida also suffers the same, and tells her that it is the devouring. She explains that the fever comes when you lose heart, and that she should try to stay motivated. She adds that it's incurable, and only an abundance of money to afford magic tools can suppress it. It has been 1 year since Mine entered a new world, and her illness is now getting stronger despite Mine's best efforts to keep it contained. As winter approaches, Benno orders the children to improve their attitudes, appearance, and basic writing skills over the winter to become apprentice merchants. He also takes Mine and Lutz to see some trouble in the shampoo making process, and talks to her separately to get further information about the shampoo. Seeing her advanced knowledge, Benno also comes to doubt who she is, yet Mine stays silent on the topic and sells the details at a high price to save money for her illness. At home, Tully and Effa also ramp up the production of hair ornaments to collect as much money as possible. Seeing the girls at work, Gunther comes in to help, and Mine asks him to take her to the gates the next day. While she's there, Otto and the soldiers rush to combat a Trombe. As they leave, she suddenly flares up with a fever. Despite being alright because of the sudden flare, Lutz piggybacks her back home, but breaks down crying on the way, worried for Mine. Later, they meet Benno, and resolve to help Mine raise money to tackle her illness. However, just as they optimistically make plans for spring, she comes down with a very powerful fever and collapses, unable to get back up. Benno yells for the carriage to be brought out. Mine feels her fever absorbed by a source and awakens in Frida's bed with a shattered bracelet. She has been brought over to Gustav's to be healed by Benno. Frida explains to Mine that a bracelet is a magic tool that absorbs her mana. It's like an overflowing cup, and soon she'll need another. However, magic tools are expensive and can be afforded by only nobles. Hence, Frida has already entered into a contract as a noble's mistress when she comes out of age, and recommends Mine to do the same. Mine faces the choice to enter into a contract or die surrounded by her loved ones, and pays Gustav as he tries to hire her in exchange for a high price for the tool. Mine spends the rest of the day with Frida, recovering and making pound cake, but she misses her family and soon leaves. Mine spends the next few days grateful to her family, Lutz and Benno. She also invites Benno, and they all decide to sell games over the winter to raise money. One evening, as Mine tries on her baptism outfit and spends time with her family, she tells them about her illness, that it's incurable and requires a magic tool, without which she has barely 1 year to live. They're heartbroken but accept Mine's wish to stay with them rather than be sold to a noble. While the girls are asleep at night, Gunther sits by himself, mulling over the news. Mine has decided to perish by her family's side while leaving them a lot of money and stopping work with Benno. She sells the paper-making rights to Benno and takes him to learn the process. Otto comments on how Benno looks like a father with the kids in tow, at which poor Gunther teems with jealousy. Mine also meets Frida, who is surprised to learn about her decision and decides to buy Mine's pound cake recipe, adding to Mine's family savings. Summer comes up and it's the day of Lutz and Mine's baptism. Lutz is flattered when Mine shows up looking all pretty and noble-like. As they enter the church, the folks compliment how they look like a tiny couple. Poor Gunther, he boils once again with jealousy. Inside the church, Mine and Lutz attend the baptism and prayers, where she's astounded to see a book of scriptures with the high priest. As the priest shows the children to pray, Mine falls from being worked up, laughing at the humorous demonstration, and is taken to rest. When she wakes up, Mine roams the hallways trying to find a way back to the prayer hall, but stumbles across a library. Overwhelmed, she asks to be allowed to read, but is told that all the access to the library only lies with the church's staff. At once, Mine decides to be an apprentice priestess and is taken to the high priest. The high priest mistakes Mine to be from a noble family and asks her for a hefty donation to join. He sends her back to come with her parents' permission. However, he allows her to read the scriptures at church. After her baptism, Mine announces her wish to become an apprentice priestess. Unexpectedly, Gunther strongly opposes it, reasoning that orphans who have no one to look after them become priests and priestesses and are brutally burdened by nobles. Mine is heartbroken that her only access to books is being denied. However, she values her family over everything else and agrees. When Mine visits the church the next day, she meets the head priest, Ferdinand, and informs the high priest of her illness and her parents' decision. Hearing this, they bring out a grail and ask Mine to touch it. The grail glows as Mine touches it, and the priests invite her parents to discuss the situation again. Mine worries if she's made matters more complicated. Later, Mine and Lutz tell Benno about the situation. Benno angrily scolds Mine and explains that the church is suffering from a lack of mana due to the shortage of nobles, and sees Mine's illness and overflowing mana as valuable. He warns her not to be played at the nobles' hands. With careful negotiation, Mine can be safe and access the magic tools at church to control her illness. Mine wonders why Benno is so concerned. Mark clears that Benno has grown to love the children and considers Mine a daughter. A blushing Benno profusely denies it. To safeguard Mine, they sign sales rights to Lutz. Benno also registered their workplace as Mine's studio with the guild. Now Mine will be able to reach Lutz in an emergency. On their way back, Lutz complains that Mine promised to work with him, overwhelmed with emotion and worry. Mine reassures him that even if she joins the church, she'll always be there. Mine tells her parents about the invitation and Benno's strong suggestion to safeguard Mine by negotiating 3 demands in exchange for Mine's mana and money: to acknowledge Mine's frailty and hence guarantee extra care by making her a blue-robed priestess and not a gray one, to allow her to run her studio, and to remain with her family. Gunther agrees and they decide to meet the priests, but Tully worries about her family's security since nobles can be stone-hearted and hurt commoners over trivial matters. The next day, Effa, Gunther, and Mine reach the church. As soon as the high priest realizes that Mine is not of a noble family, he tries to take Mine forcefully. He orders the staff to lock the parents up and refuses their demands completely. Gunther, being a protective father, fights back. However, seeing the chaos, Mine is overcome by her strong mana. Her mana spreads over the high priest and starts choking him. Quickly, Ferdinand intervenes and calms her down. As the high priest is carried out, Ferdinand takes the family to his office and accepts their demands. He asks to join the church as a request, not an order, to which Mine gladly agrees. Ferdinand says she's lucky to have such caring parents compared to the children of the church. Back home, Tully and Lutz nervously wait for Mine, Gunther, and Effa's return. Upon seeing them, they're delighted and relieved. Mine is back home and safe with a possible healthy future ahead of her. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.